The more opinions I get, the closer to the true value for the house I'm buying or selling I'll get. Right? Actually, maybe not.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.
Anyway, we at the Decker team are excited that for over 31 years, we've been able to not only help you buying and selling and investing in real estate, we've been helping you flourish, strengthen, heal in your relationships, make great decisions in just how to even navigate living in your home, making house home, and building wealth through real estate. So 31 years of building life and home.
Yeah. I like to say opinions are cheap. Everyone's got one. And in a world of supply and demand, creating value, there is no shortage of supply of opinions.
So many opinions. And whose opinion do you count on? And we often say we don't really want to give you our opinion. We want to give you market data. We want to give you the relevant market data. And then we're going to interpret the market data to help you arrive at a really good, sound understanding of the market value.
Somebody really wise said to me a couple weeks ago, he said, asking the right question of the wrong person is not good.
Well, it's terrible because you're going to get an answer and it's going to do you more harm than good. It's going to hurt you.
Yeah, because it was kind of a spin-off of, asking the wrong question doesn't get you the right answer, but asking the right question from the wrong person doesn't get you the right answer either.
No. So asking the wrong question.
So who might be the wrong person to ask or take advice or opinions of on the value of your property?
Maybe my mama.
Your mama?
My mama.
Your mama says you're selling it too cheap?
Yeah, well, yes, pretty much every time.
Or you'll never get that much for it. What are you thinking?
Right, right. Depending on how astute they are in the marketplace.
Okay,
or how
neighbor.
Attached. Or my neighbor.
Why does your neighbor want you to sell it higher and they think always that you're underselling it?
Oh, well, can we say always?
Well, no, we can't say always, but generally.
And absolutely most of the time. You're absolutely right. So it's because they want their house to be worth more money. And so they have an overinflated view of their home. And so I've seldom have a neighbor say, oh, you're asking just the right amount of money for your house. Pretty much always what I hear is, they told me I'm asking too little. Too cheap. You're bringing down my property value.
Yep,
that's not all
down
said.
The value of the neighborhood
and my house.
How dare you sell your house that low?
Right. And again, if you go back to some of our other episodes, you'll see that it's not just about asking price. Asking is not actually the whole story. It's actually not much of the story. It's really what are they selling for.
Right. And even a friend or a coworker who's recently bought a house,
even in the same neighborhood,
they might tell you your value. And your value is not how much you need to pay off the mortgage or pay your debts. Your value is not what you think it's worth.
No.
Your value is not what the tax assessor says it's worth.
Or even the appraiser. That is becoming another huge, scary conversation.
Well, what I like about appraisers is they're typically, if we sell a property, that means true to the definition, a buyer and a seller have agreed to market value. It's that appraiser's job to try to validate that price.
To substantiate the price that it actually sold at.
Yes. And sometimes in an escalating market, they have a hard time justifying the value that a buyer put on a property, because maybe that buyer missed out on 8 houses and they're just sick and tired of it. So they don't care if they throw an extra 10 or 15,000 on it. They need a place for their family to live.
Right. And so even what it's sold for doesn't necessarily tell you what your home is worth. Even the relevant property data may not be perfect.
it takes some massaging.
It does. And some willingness to read between the lines. When it comes to real estate and market values, a lot of it is reading between the lines. Reading what the propensity is for buyers in this market, what the attitudes of sellers are, what the concerns are that are in that particular marketplace right now, what's about to happen, what has happened.
Where's transit going?
Yeah.
Is the train broken today or is it working? You know, there's a lot of things to consider. And that's something I just realized is the appraiser has a tough job.
Oh, very tough job.
Because they're answering to the buyer, the bank, everyone, and the seller. And when they do their appraisal, it's very factual. Yes, they have some background around what's the market doing, how many, like I've had appraisers call me, how many offers did you have on this house that you sold at 50,000 over asking or whatever it was? And based on the number of offers, they go, okay, there's demand there. So they have to use a little bit of subjective, but primarily their appraisal is objective. They need to show facts and figures and adjustments in whereas as a real estate professional, we're using similar data.
Well, we're using the same data.
But we're allowed to be a lot more subjective.
Right. Taking into consideration the nuances, reading between the lines.
Right. And we don't have to prove it with numbers. We have to prove it by selling it.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And so how do we help somebody determine the true value when so much of it is actually reading between the lines?
Wisdom. Wisdom comes from experience of how to read all those things. And it's a horrible saying, a gut. It's your gut, it's your snap, it's your blink, it's your first impression. You bring all the data and you might go, well, my brain tells me X. My heart says Y. And then the seller has to make a decision.
And the buyer has to make a decision.
Well, ultimately.
Both parties have to come together on the discussion. Or if we're working with
the buyer, we do the similar process.
It's
when
exactly
they find the house they want, we've now got to figure out true value for that buyer.
Right. Because truly the value is in the eye of the beholder. Like it is right there.
Yes. And for a seller, for a person that owns property, the value is in the beholder. But as soon as they go to sell, the value is no longer in the eye of the beholder. The value is in the eye of the future beholder, right? So the future buyer is going to set the value provided the seller can live with that value or wants that value.
Right. Otherwise, he gets to buy it back, which is another show.
There's just no sale.
Right. So wisdom comes from seeking wise counsel. And so really knowing where to get that wise counsel. So maybe don't call your best friend. Unless they're an amazing, extraordinary realtor. If you're my best friend, please do call me. That would be awesome. And it's just a matter of thinking about your source. If you get the source wrong, it doesn't matter the answer they give you. It's not going to work. Even if you ask the right question, you'll still get the wrong answer from the wrong source.
So we're excited to be your partners as we move forward together, because together we've got this.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward